Hey guys, it's your girl Lex and I am back with another video. And this video, so of course it's revelation from God. So I don't know how many of you guys celebrate Rosh Hashanah. I'm not Jewish, but I do celebrate Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year. So it's usually around that time of the year I start to ask God, okay, so I start to reflect on me and what happened with me in the previous year, well, this year, and what do you have for me in the upcoming year. So I was just talking to God about, just reflecting on everything that happened within the last 12 months of my life. And I realized a lot of it had to do with confronting this hidden function. There was a lot of this hidden function that I did not realize that I was carrying. So in one of those ways, I was thinking about when God told me to move. And when he told me to move earlier this year, earlier 2021 of our year, it was not at the best time, because I wasn't prepared like I would want to be, like comfortably prepared how I would want to be, right? So the particular place that I was at, I was okay with it, but it wasn't what I really wanted. And I personally have been praying to God about, getting a place that I really want. I don't know how to explain it. Like I just wanted a place that I wanted, not just something that I could afford. And I'm being like really vulnerable with you guys. Like, I'm not rich, okay? I be trying to look nice or whatever, but I am not rich. I'm regular. I'm human, just like anybody else, and I struggle with things too. But I wanted something, and don't get me wrong, the place that I had was really nice, but it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't the area that I wanted. And God knew that, and there would be often times before he even told me to move, there will often be times where I'm like, God, I want to move. But at the same time, I was just settling for less. And I realized there was a lot of insecurity that I was carrying. And it wasn't just about how I felt like I looked, or about, I guess, the approval of others, but just built up insecurity, because when I moved, when he didn't move me in a place right away, that's when I started to having to confront that hidden dysfunction, the hidden spirit of entitlement. I felt entitled, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, God, well, you did this, that, and the third before. I don't understand why you can't do it now. Why can't you do it this way now? But I had to realize, I can't be like a spoiled brat to my dad, you know what I'm saying? Like, he has a certain way of doing things, and if I agree to align with him and trust him and put my yes to his yes, and I agree to follow his plan, I also agree to not knowing every detail. I also agree to an uncomfortable place, because sometimes following God is not comfortable. I mean, it's all throughout the Bible. You can ask any Christian, and I mean a real Christian. You can ask anybody. I mean, we are all going through life, and Christians are not exempt, all right? So when I moved and I had faith in God, I was like, all right, yeah, I was all amped. I'm like, all right, well, God's finna do it how he did it some previous time he had did it. He did not. He did not do it in the same way. And that's another thing. Don't think you know God so much that you're not a student, that there's still more that you have to learn from God, even when you think you know so much. So again, that was something that I needed to confront. But when a few weeks went by and he didn't do it right away after I moved, I'm like, okay, well, God, you got me out here looking, crazy. Okay, and then I felt some type. When I tell you guys, I really felt some type of way. I felt betrayed by my own father. Like, imagine that. But I felt some type of way. And I really started to feel discouraged. I started to feel like, well, maybe I misheard God. Maybe I should have did it my way, like I was gonna do anyway. Maybe I shouldn't have trusted God the way I should have, because once again, he's another person that's gonna let me down. Just letting the devil talk and believing it though. And then I just felt very discouraged, disheartened. I felt like I was doing everything wrong, and it's so hard. For me, the hardest thing about following God is the people that are around you aren't going to always understand what God is doing. You know, because what you have between you and God and your relationship with God is totally different than what somebody else's relationship with God. You know, what God is telling you, it may be different than what he's telling somebody else. And if you know me, you know I've always been like God first. Like, I'm not perfect, you know, but God is really like number one. Like, he is the love of my life, for real. For real, y'all. So when he didn't do it right away, I felt very, very betrayed, discouraged, and very insecure. Vulnerable, but very, very insecure, like in my faith with God. Like, dang, God, like, I follow you and you do this, you're doing it like this, and I'm just like, dang, like, and I really just didn't understand, because I was, for again, being entitled. I didn't realize I had to remember that, you know, being, like I said, being with God and following his plan means the uncomfortable places too, the uncommon places, the tight places, you know what I'm saying? It's not always comfortable following the plan of God, but it's always worth it. I would not lie to you. It's always worth it. I really kind of just started to feel stupid for following God, right? And I started to feel insecure, and I started to kind of miss a place that I didn't even want. A place that I knew God was only going to keep me there for a season. I already knew it from when I first moved there. I started to miss it, and I'm just like, why in the world would I miss something and I know God has better for me? Why would I? You know what? And I started to realize it was like that. It wasn't just like that with my faith in my relationship with God, but it was like that in my relationships. It was like that in my friendships. I realized that I would settle for a lot lower just because I felt like I couldn't get better. So I would almost kind of be stuck in these like kind of like not toxic situations, but like, and honestly, I don't know how else to say it, but I kind of be stuck in these things because I didn't know my identity fully in him. And that's another thing I had to learn this. I was really starting to learn this year, my identity in him. So it wouldn't be defined by anything or anyone else. So yeah, so it kind of, God kind of gave me a revelation about, like, this is how the Israelites were in the wilderness. Something they would, you know, God was taking them through an uncomfortable place to deliver them from slavery and get them to their promised land. But what they didn't know is the details in between. And that's the thing. If you're going to fully follow God, you're gonna have to be okay with the uncomfortable places, and just do it. Just go through it. It's gonna make you stronger. It's gonna make you a better person. You're gonna like literally transform into the person that God has created you to be, and it's all gonna be based on God. But anyway, I'm telling y'all, if y'all do that, you are not gonna be disappointed. It's always worth all the discomfort. It's always worth going through the fire. Everything, because when you come out, God gonna make like you gonna see, okay, this was worth it. This is why the enemy was attacking me so hard in my wilderness. And again, like I said in my last video, don't think it's strange, you know, if you start going through some things, being with God, and your faith starts to get tested, don't think it's strange when you put your yes to something. Okay, God, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to follow your plan. And the enemy starts to challenge that word. The enemy starts to challenge you to see if, are you really going to live up to what you say? Are you really going to still say yes? If you go through this, if you're uncomfortable like this, are you really, is your mind made up? Is your mind made up? I watched a sermon. I'm sorry, guys. I get so excited when I talk about God. But I watched a sermon by T.D. Jakes. It's called Believing Matters, I think. Believing Matters, something like that. And at one point he said, Esau cried out to the Lord with all his emotions. And I'm not saying God does not care about your emotions, but Esau cried out to the Lord in repentance and did not find it. He was using his emotions. You literally have to have your mind made up. Okay, I'm not seeking results out of me crying and complaining. Because literally, y'all, that was me crying and complaining like the Israelites. The Israelites, all they kept whining and complaining is, well, maybe we should have stayed in slavery because it's better than walking around in the wilderness. They were seeing things so much in the lens or in the perspective or the eye lens of negativity. They were not seeing the blessing that was happening. They weren't seeing the Lord that was with them every single day, providing food, manna that fell from heaven every single day. God was taking care of them, but they didn't see it that way because they were so focused on their comfortability. And that's the thing. If you're going to be sold out for God, if you're going to live for God, if you are going to do it, if you're going to be all in, you have got to be okay with those uncomfortable places. But let me tell you something, it is always worth it. So I realized he gave me revelation on Israelites. Like this was them. That is literally what I was being. And if I didn't change, if I didn't get out of that spirit of entitlement, if I didn't get out of that spirit of complaining, I would still be stuck. You ever went through something or you ever been through a situation and you feel like, or you ever been in a relationship with a guy and you feel like, well, that relationship didn't work, so you're getting a relationship with someone else and you kind of feel like you're starting to date the same person just with a different name? What if there was something in that you didn't learn? There's a reason why we go through cycles. We allow cycles to happen in our life because we didn't get out of what we needed to get out of it. We need to go to God. We need his direction. We need his plan. For many is the plans in a man's heart, but it's the Lord's plan that prevails. So anyway, back to the Israelites. Well, this is how they were. So I guess what I'm just saying to you is don't get stuck on, don't let the enemy make you believe anything other than what God has told you. Even in the face of opposition. I mean, literally, y'all, you can say yes to God and the next day stuff start happening that is the exact opposite. And then all of a sudden the enemy in your head talking about, see, I told you. God ain't real. This just happened. No, God is real. The reason why this bad thing just happened is because the enemy sees that, oh my gosh, if I let this person see that all they were created for, if I let them realize and understand how to live in faith, if I let them realize, I'm sorry guys, somebody's calling me. The enemy does not want you to see your true worth, your true value, and the power and the authority that you have over them. And the reason why the Israelites wanted to go back into slavery, they complained and they whined. They thought it was better just to go back into slavery. A whole generation missed the promised land because of their complaining. But the reason why they thought it would be better to go back is because they didn't believe that, they thought that it was better to be enslaved than to be free. They thought that being slaves is better than being free because they didn't want to submit. They didn't want to fight. They didn't want to submit. And I feel like that's, including myself, I feel like that's a main issue with a lot of believers and believing in God. We quit early. We walk away. We start doing our own thing. We do it early. And it's just like, that's exactly what the enemy wants. You have to endure. You have to endure. Just like, don't quote me on this. I think it's Ephesians, but I know Paul said it. But just like in the Bible, it says that his strength is sufficient in our weakness. And so I'm just here to tell you guys, don't believe the lie that it is better to be in bondage, that it is better to settle because you feel like, and because you don't see. And that's the thing about faith. Faith is not about seeing. You have to believe before you see. You're not going to see before you believe. You have to believe before you see. So don't think that's strange, and don't let the enemy talk you into giving up, forfeiting your promise, because the enemy can see how big that promise is. And if only you can see it, don't give up. Keep having faith. Keep having faith. God is so good. He's so true to his word. I'm telling you. And all he requires you to do is believe. The reason why it's impossible to please God without faith is because you have to believe to have faith. Even Jesus said, no man can get through the Father but through him. But you got to believe that. You have to believe that. You have got to believe it. And that's like that is the number one thing. One of the number one thing the enemy attacks believers on is your faith. And he attacks it through what you actually believe. So I started to notice, when I was in that whole complaining phase and whatever, I started to notice, well, this is not the fruit of God. Because all this complaining and whining and crying and just, it was just wasting time. It wasn't solving anything. I mean, yeah, it's okay to cry. Get it out. If you need to cry, cry a little bit. But get back up again. Because his grace is sufficient in our weakness. So I'm really just here to tell you, don't let the uncomfortability get to you. It's all about your perspective. It's all about the lens, the eye lens of your perspective. What's your perspective looking at? You can always tell where your alignment is by the fruit. Not just you can always tell what kind of tree it is by its fruit. A peach tree is not going to grow apples. You know what I mean? So don't just look at the fruit of others and other things, but look at the fruit of you. I love you guys, okay? I'll talk to you guys soon.